But you guys may recall I brought up that after Zaslav gets DC in order, at least seemingly in order, his next bout of business was going to be Harry Potter. And Pro, you've heard something.
Yeah, so I've been reporting on this exclusively. I got the leak. It's not because I'm anything special. It's just because I have some sources and they determined that they wanted to send that to me. And so I've reported on that very carefully. Part of the reason for being so careful is because this is early on in the process. So when big companies decide to do big things, they have to get things in place. And without being any more specific than that, that's how we know that Warner Brothers Discovery is looking for the opportunity to reboot the Harry Potter series in the next 3 to 5 years. Now, the other reason to be extraordinarily careful with the material that I was given, not only is it huge, I mean, that's one of the biggest franchises in the world. So to be given that and given the responsibility to disseminate it well is a big deal and brings a lot of pressure. But also because it's so early in the process that there are a few people who know about it. And so you have to be careful about what you say and how you say it so that you do not throw one of your sources unintentionally under the bus. Because if you do, that's career ending potentially. I mean, that really will get you completely blacklisted in Hollywood. So, but that's the thing, is that within the next 3 to 5 years, Warner Brothers Discovery is looking to reboot Harry Potter. We do not know the details of what that looks like. So there are a lot of people out there who are jumping and saying, oh, well, they're going to start from scratch. They're going to recast all the child characters, which that is part of it, is that they're willing to recast. But the idea that they would just go back to the original movie and redo it, I think is unlikely, although I don't have any insider information in that regard. What I know is that they're going to reboot. I don't know how they're going to reboot it. Do they put it into a different setting? Do they put it into a different era? Do they bring back the character or the actors who want to be a part of this? I know there's major friction between the actors and J.K. Rowling, but do they bring them back in some capacity to play different roles? We don't know any of that yet. One thing that I can say, well, there's two things I'll say, and these may be slightly new. They may be exclusive on this show, but there's two things that I feel comfortable saying right now. And then Sunday, I'm going to release some more information on this. That's not just because I'm, wanting to do that Sunday, but it's also making sure that I have all my ducks in a row and everything's lined up and nobody gets in trouble. But the two things that I can say today are that, one, there is a financial reason behind this. And so I had somebody on Twitter asking me earlier today, why does Warner Brothers Discovery not just continue to make films outside of the regular Harry Potter stuff, the Fantastic Beasts, etc.? Why can't they just do that? And the answer to that is because these companies have actuaries, they have accountants, and they look deeply into these sorts of things. And what they've discovered at Warner Brothers Discovery is that they've divided Harry Potter into two segments. It's the core Harry Potter, the OG stuff, the wands, the hats, etc. And they've also divided it into the auxiliary Harry Potter stuff. That's more of the wizarding stuff, right? And what they've figured out is that when it comes to the core franchise, the merchandising sales are through the roof. They're better than Star Wars. When they go to the Fantastic Beasts and this auxiliary Harry Potter material, it's on the floor. Like, it just doesn't drive excitement. It doesn't drive enthusiasm. And so you might look at the video game coming out. It's going back to that centralized Hogwarts experience, and they're gauging based on how that video game does coming out in February, I believe, where this franchise needs to go. But the second thing that I can tell you, and this is exclusive, I haven't told this to anybody yet. I'll have to tweet it out in a minute, so I make sure that I get it out to as many channels as possible. But so it was confirmed to me a couple of days ago that Warner Brothers Discovery is absolutely looking now for somebody to lead a wizarding division, to be the Kevin Feige of the wizarding division. And so that's the first time I've ever said that to anybody, but I feel safe in putting that out there now. And again, that's part of all of these processes that are taking place that let us know what they're looking into. That's only one. And as I'm able to discuss more, I'll begin doing that. But, if somebody sends me something and their job's on the line, I'm not going to disclose, with specificity anything that could get them in trouble. But
That's
yeah, so the wizarding division is becoming a thing.
It's very similar to what I had heard a while back. And that was, like I said, the next thing in line was Harry Potter. I'd heard talks of possibly doing a movie. Zaslav wanted a 2-part, the play they did, the child play, whatever the hell it was called, The Cursed Child or whatever. And I think they were implying they were going to have the original cast come back for that. But the individual I talked to also brought up what you did, Pro, about the whole animosity between the OG cast and J.K. Rowling. And
right,
how that was a problem. And again, so that was where I'd heard that, they're leading into a reboot kind of thing too. So I have no idea if the Cursed Child thing is still going to happen, or if that's just if that's also going to happen as well as. But yeah, I believe that they're going to reboot with a new cast. I wonder if it'll be like an HBO Max series as opposed to movies, though. But
well, I don't know. But for people who are saying, "Oh, I can't believe they're going to do this. Why would they do this? It's not been long enough." Look at it from the financial side of things. From the financial standpoint, you've got a franchise that's divided into 2 parts. One part sells horrendously, and there's a whole ecosystem of partners and sales and financial impact. We'll just stay there. But there's all different types of money that's coming in, and one of those divisions inside this franchise just does extremely poorly, and one is phenomenal. I mean, it is the envy of other companies that have similar large franchises. And so here's the thing you've got, though. This part of the segment that does so well is tied to a character, right? It is Harry Potter. Okay, how long can you go where you're not producing Harry Potter, but you have massive industry that needs Harry Potter? Well, there's a shelf life, right? And there's a shelf life on nostalgia. That's something we talked about on this show a few days ago. There's a shelf life on nostalgia. So how long are you going to wait before you pull the trigger and get another Harry Potter? You got to have Harry. I mean, there's so much money involved in that, in having that character actively being portrayed by somebody somewhere to drive the theme parks, to drive the toys, to drive the merchandising. You can't sit forever without Harry Potter.
Yeah, very good points. And fans, of course, will disagree with it. Myself, I'm more curious about how they're going to execute it. Are they going to make a completely clean break, or are they going to Cobra Kai it and continue with the adult cast? Is that
because they could do that? You're right. They could start with like a Cursed Child movie, and then they could do a series that jumps ahead a few years where it's about that kid going to school now or whatever, and a whole new group of kids, and stick with the wizarding side of things, but it still have a tangential connection, and you can bring in and out cast members of the original cast. But I don't know how tight JK is going to be with this, because I had heard some things, but I haven't heard anything conclusive enough. Pro, I don't know what you had heard, but I do know they wanted her to work on some new ideas, is another thing I kind of heard.
Well, absolutely. Surely you would, although at the same time she brings problems with her. I mean, let's not sugarcoat it. Because of her positions, there are some demographics that will stay away from anything associated with her. That's not to say that she's right or wrong. Well, that's partially, I think, what is happening in the background right now is research is being done.
I think the problem with the demographics, I don't think that she's going to lose any demographics out there in the audience. I
Not
think
the normies.
The demographics is how many won't work with anything associated with her behind the scenes. What kind of Hollywood talent that they would need are going to shy away for that reason. I think that's the only demographic that's going to give them any kind of real trouble. But that is real trouble.
Yeah, and they have to do something, because you've got these wizarding worlds in the theme parks. Are we to really believe that they're just going to have those continue to operate in perpetuity without having theatrical releases, without
some kind
having
of support,
shows to drive a new generation to be interested. I mean, the people who are out there saying, "Oh, it's too soon. They're not going to reboot it." Blah 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 blah. I'm sorry, but your generation, it started with you. But for it to survive and to continue and to thrive, it has to come back out with new iterations. Look at the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That's what they've had to do. Look at the Power Rangers. That's what they've had to do. Whether it's successful, whether each new iteration is successful, you have to continue telling the tale or progress the story, one or the other, or else your franchise becomes stagnant and it dies.
Well, and they don't even wait for the corpses of the old turtles to be cold yet before they've been rebooting it over at Nickelodeon the last few years. But we also have to remind people, I think it's been like at least a decade, hasn't it, since the last Harry Potter movie?
It's been a long time.
Yeah.
And how long
it's
since
been more than that, I think. Well, God, the original one was way back early 2000s.
That's 20 years ago.
That's what I'm saying. Like the last one was like what, 2009, 10, 11, somewhere in there?
Right. How many times has Spider-Man been
2011 right there. So
in the time since the first Harry Potter film. I mean, that's something to think about.
I'm surprised we haven't had a Harry Potter TV show and a few other things like that. Wizarding World movies is the only reason I think we haven't had a reboot already, to be honest with you, because that was keeping it alive long enough, but they screwed that up with all that business. So, yeah.
No, I'm with you. And again, it just comes down to economics. You've got a hard division in this franchise. The core Harry Potter stuff is exactly what they need to sell, and it's fantastic. The other stuff, not so much. And they're not going to sit there and bring back very small returns versus what they could have if they just do this thing that will be controversial for, I don't know, 6 months, and then boom, we'll see what they really have and go with it.
Yeah. Culture, are you back at all? I don't think he is. So, all right. Well, with that, was there anything more on the Harry Potter tip that you had to add to it? Because, anything more I've heard, I really can't understand or verify. So,
well, not yet. We'll have to wait and see what else I'm allowed to release and what's safe to get out there. But I do plan to have some more stuff by Sunday, so we'll continue moving forward.
All right. Well, we look forward to that, and then.